My name is Chris Totten. I'm the lead faculty for the animation game design program here at Kent State. So I have the great pleasure this afternoon to introduce Grace Collins, and I'm going to use my phone because they have quite an impressive resume that I want to make sure I hit all the points of. But Grace Collins, they, them, is the founder and CEO of Snowbright Studios, a Cleveland-based LGBTBE-certified game studio dedicated to publishing heartwarming games and experiences. Grace previously led games and education policy at the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and later coordinated federal game policy across the executive branch. Prior to serving at the department, they managed and developed educational game projects at the Smithsonian Institution. Grace has taught computer science and game design at multiple levels and was profiled by the Associated Press for founding the first esports team in the nation at an all-girls high school. So join me in welcoming Grace Collins.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, all right. How many of y'all, I don't know who you are, so we're at a disadvantage because you know who I am. How many of y'all are like high school students? Anybody? Nobody? There's like 300 high school students on campus. There's none of them are in here. Got it. How many of y'all are college students? What, everybody? How many of you feel old right now? Just me? Okay, a couple of people. All right, cool. All right. I'm Grace. I use they, them pronouns. I'm here for Snowbright Studio. Vision and founder, this is what you have to have on a pitch deck. Snowbright Studio, our vision, we publish heartwarming, award-winning digital and tabletop games that uplift diverse designers and content creators. And that's me. So you can see I have a lot of background. I'm an attorney, I do software development, business development, I write stuff. I've worked a lot of different places. It's kind of a weird situation, to be honest. I wake up sometimes and I'm like, oh, what did I do? I did a lot of stuff. So I can't do a record scratch noise. Can anyone else? Anybody? No? All right. Y'all, it's like, what, 3 o'clock right now? It's all right. This is me, and like I said, I wake up a lot of mornings and I'm just like, what am I doing right now? What did I just spend money on? Why are we traveling to these random places with, I think the last time I was going through, a couple weeks ago, I was dragging a dolly through Seattle stacked with coloring pages. And I'm just like, how did I get to this point in my life? And the honest answer is I didn't know that I was going to become an entrepreneur. I don't even really care for that term. It kind of freaks me out a little bit. I've known a lot of people who love to talk about entrepreneurs, and it hasn't really been a thing that I've enjoyed, but I run a business, I started a business, we make money, so that kind of counts me in as an entrepreneur. Maybe some of you feel the same. Is there anyone out there, I'm going to keep doing this, by the way, because I'm a former teacher and I can. Is there anyone out there who's like, yes, I'm an entrepreneur and that is my identity? Is there anyone who's like, yeah, okay, all right. See, yeah, like you all exist. I'm not one of you, but I recognize that you all exist. Is anybody out there who like, entrepreneur is not me? Like 100%, there you go. All right, art school, all right, cool. Yeah, that was me. Like I said, I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur, so I certainly didn't go in trying to think, like, what skills do I need to be an entrepreneur, because I didn't think that was going to be a situation I'd find myself. I did find out later, and these are them, skills. I need a skill of being skilled. It's a tricky one. I need people, problems, and I need time. So those are the 4 things I'm going to talk about. I should also talk about the hat. I wear a lot of hats. That's a pun from earlier with all the jobs. But it's a rainbow unicorn. Anybody know what a unicorn is in entrepreneur speak? Startup speak? Yeah? Okay. Oh, no? All right. No, you don't count your faculty. Are you faculty? Yeah, you're a plant too. No, you're not. Okay. What's a unicorn, y'all? In an HR context, that is a unicorn. Anybody know what a startup unicorn is? Anybody? Anybody? It means that you've hit $1 billion in valuation, which is what you're supposed to be aiming for if you're looking for venture capital funds. I always get to that point in conversations with venture capital, and I'm like, I'm not gonna make $1 billion. And then they stop talking to me for some reason, it's weird. So this is my rainbow unicorn hat because I'm rainbow, and then I try to remember that I'm supposed to be talking about money sometimes. But I'm gonna start, because we're doing that whole like, where are you from thing. I'm gonna start way back. I actually grew up around here. I was born out in Trumbull County, went to school out in Youngstown. I hated school. I don't know how many of you felt that way too, particularly around high school. I was an awful student. I was just a nightmare for my parents and for my peers. And basically I said, I'm done with this. This doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to college either because it's just more of the same, and I want out of all of it. And that's kind of a long story. Can you all hear me okay, or is this like echoey? This is good for you? All right, cool. And honestly, that probably would have been the place where I just kind of ended. Like, what's that? Okay, all right. That probably would have been the place that I ended. I just stopped at high school and kind of like went, and I worked in a factory for a while. I worked pushing carts at Target, which is kind of fun sometimes when you're not getting hit by cars and stuff. And if it wasn't for the family and friends that I had around me who really kind of pushed me into going to college, because I wasn't even applying to college at that point, they convinced me to apply to a couple, and I got in because I found out, and this is a recurring theme, I found out something about myself, which is that I can screw up a whole lot of stuff, but for some reason I take tests well. I'm sorry, that's not advice. It's just this weird thing that happens. And because our system of education is so happy about tests, they're like, great. So that's kind of lucky on my part. Luck's also a theme here. All right, so I went out to DePaul University, which was one of the very few places that I applied to. And at the time, I said that I would like to do technology because I didn't really have a plan. And people told me there were jobs in technology. Is that a great reason to go to college or what? Maybe it's not matching some of you all, but that was kind of it for me. And it was out in Chicago, which was different, but still Midwestern in nature. And I got through college and found that it wasn't as bad as I thought, and things started to make more sense. And I don't know if that's happening for you right now too, because I'm talking to college students as I remind myself. And by the time that I graduated from college, I had this moment of like panic. And so I don't know if that's creeping up on any of you right now either. But yeah, okay, all right, represent. Social anxiety for me, and career anxiety too. So I got to the point where like I was doing internships and I was coding software and I was doing this, and the salary was coming. And they're like, hey, if you stay here and do this, we will give you this money for the rest of your life, and you're welcome. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit here and code reports for 40 years. That scared me. And so I did what anyone else would not have done, which is I ran to the bookstore at the university library, or the university bookstore, and I said, I'm in over my head. I know exactly what to do. I'll go to grad school because that will solve all of my problems by putting me more in debt. So I started pulling, I'm not even kidding about this. This is how, you're like, oh, sure, you're a bad high school student. This is where I was at, right? Like I was pulling books off of the shelf, and I was like, I'm a good test taker. Which of these can I do the best at? And I'm like, GRE, too much math. GMAT, too much math. LSAT, no math. And so I ended up at law school. And I wish to tell you that I had more planning going into this, but a lot of it was that. I'm like, I don't know, but you can be a lawyer. So I went to law school. I got into the number 11 law school in the nation because, again, lawyers love tests. They don't ask you a whole lot of questions if you get a high enough test score. This is Washington and Lee University in rural Virginia in Appalachia. And I actually loved it. How weird is that? I can't explain my brain sometimes. I'm neurodiverse. Some things just happen. So I got there, and it was fascinating. It was fun. I did not want to be a lawyer, I found out, but the school was great. And so I was once again approaching the end of the third year of law school, and I'm like, I'm 7 years in now. You're all like, what are you talking about? None of this has anything to do with art, and that's fair, that's fair. I was getting to the end of law school, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? Because I don't wanna be an attorney, and I don't like wearing suits, and everybody's really kind of bro right now. And I did an internship at the Virginia Attorney General's office, and I did an internship at the Ohio Attorney General's office, and I started prosecuting crime. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me, because for most of my life growing up, it had been moments where I had been dragging myself to class, dragging myself over to work, saying I'm doing this for the money, you know, shaving 15 minutes off here and there. But when I was working at the Ohio Attorney General, we were prosecuting people, insurance companies actually, we were prosecuting insurance companies who were stealing money from children's hospitals in Cincinnati. And that, to me, was a reason to get up in the morning. That was the first time that I really ended up going to work early, staying at work late, caring about what I was doing. So it was a moment for me. I didn't know what to do, but I figured opportunity would present itself, because that's, you know, the way to plan your life. And unfortunately, that was also the same time as the Great Recession. So when a lot of law jobs disappeared. So I did what any reasonable person would do and moved to this city. Anybody know this city? Nobody? You're all bad neighbors. You've already answered 3 times. Pittsburgh, no, wrong direction. Detroit, I heard somebody say Detroit. Motor City, yeah. I moved to Detroit, because why not? And I moved there, I didn't have a job. And I'm like, look, I've got a couple of skills I can do. What should I do? And so I ended up in the place where there was money, because remember, calling back, remember when people said there was money in tech? So I ended up in IT. Because there's always somebody's computer's broken. I ended up working at a university, and I was fixing computers, and it was a really chill job. I mean, I'd show up, I would help a couple people, I would hang out on the computer, just hanging out. I spent a day organizing my iTunes library at one point, you know, and the salary wasn't bad, the benefits were great, and my peers were all like, this is it, this is great. You just hang here, you do whatever you want on the weekends and the evenings, you're done, you're set. And I'm like, oh man, it's just like college again. I just got myself trapped, because I'm gonna be stuck here forever. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not an entrepreneur sort of person. So I don't know if this is what hits entrepreneur people. Anytime I get stuck in this position, I feel like this. Like, I just hate what's going on, and I just feel like I need to move, I need to go, I need to get somewhere else. Maybe that resonates for some of you, and maybe some of you are like, what are you doing? You had the best job right there, you just stayed there. And that's totally legit. You know, working in the factory, I used to work with people who, their job was sorting screws. They get the round screw, they get the square screw. The one goes here, the other one goes there. What did I do? I scraped schmutz off of windows. So I got razor blades, and I just cleaned glass all day. That's all you had to do, you take home a paycheck. Some people love that, that's great. All for you, not for me, drives me crazy. Yeah, I was in a pickle. So I decided that I tried to think back, because I'm already in my 20s at this point, right? Which is where some of you all are. And I'm like, I really gotta get stuff together here. And so I started looking around, and I'm like, what did I actually enjoy doing in my life at this point? And I felt like the time that I had the most fun, I was in the government. I was doing something that helps people besides just me. And so I applied to the federal government, because I heard that there were a lot of problems there. I heard that people didn't like the government, and that DC was messing stuff up. And I'm like, sounds like an interesting place to be. So I applied to federal jobs. I applied to 100 federal jobs. Do you know how many interviews I got out of that 100 applications? We got 1, we got 5, we got 2. 2 is the correct answer. We got 2 jobs out of 100 applications. It's a part-time job for a full semester. And I found out later I wasn't applying in the right way, so there was part of that. But I got 2 interviews that would lead to job shenanigans. The first one was to join the Department of Defense. Probably not what you expected to hear when you came to Art Without Limits, but look, there are no limits here. So we're in good territory. The Department of Defense wanted me to design databases to track nuclear missiles across the nation and the globe using their sophisticated technology, because if you want a job, you get a job in technology. There's lots of jobs in technology. I hear it, I hear it. So that was one path I could have taken. And the other one was this place. Anyone know where this is? This is just a quiz game. I had it as a Kahoot, but why would we do that? Anybody know this place? Yeah, in the back. You don't count your faculty. What? The Smithsonian, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Also, you already did the intro. You know where this is, and you were there too. This is the castle at the Smithsonian Institution, and I walked in, and they're like, look, we need somebody to make games. And would you like to do that? And I was like, yes. And they're like, cool, because your resume is really weird. And I'm like, look, I'm not gonna argue with you on that. And they're like, it's got a lot of things on it though that we need. Like, it has software. Okay, well, we need somebody to do tech. It has law. Well, okay, we have somebody who needs to work in a government situation and also somebody who can write grant proposals and knows how to read and write. And it says here under your hobbies that you like gaming. Would you like to expand on that? And I'm like, is this an HR violation? Are you gonna discriminate against me because of game stuff? And I was like, look, you know what? I'm a dungeon master. I run games for people. It just is what it is. Because y'all don't remember, but this was before Critical Role, so people didn't know what you're talking about. So I explained to them, like, software development, computer science, e-commerce technology, we called it back then because Amazon was kind of starting out, is designing systems for machines. And law is designing systems for people. And games are putting those two together, right? Because you can't treat a machine the same way as a human. We try to all the time, and vice versa. It doesn't work. And the systems that we design for one don't work for another. But when you put them together, you get these weird things called games, and they're really fascinating little toys for us to play around with. This is one of the first ones that I made. This is called Sizing Up the Universe. We did fascinating things, like if the Earth was a Brussels sprout, the moon would be the size of a blueberry. So, you know, giving relative proportions, trying to shrink down astronomical sizes. The most fun was playing this game with people who worked at NASA because they would always get it wrong. And I'm like, y'all. So we had a lot of fun with this. This won an award. It's not, you know, I was gonna say World of Warcraft, and then I was feeling old again. It's not a game that's popular among youths today. I'm trying, y'all. But it's what we call like a museum interactive. It's something that you touch, you play with, you move around. It's the equivalent of like flipping up a thing at a museum. This is another thing that I made. This Smithsonian Learning Lab. We designed an educator portal, so like a place for all teachers to come to the Smithsonian. If you go there, it's still up. Won a number of awards for that too. And I was like, as I was working on this, I was like, wait a minute. I came here to work for the government, but what have they got me do? I'm back in IT again, and they're working me on tech and making websites again. And it's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to come in every day and check Jira, and I didn't want to come in every day and talk about RFPs and technical requirements and stuff like that. It's good skills, it's good training. It's very expensive to hire people to do that. I'm glad I know how to do that. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to listen to somebody else's stuff. And I guess, again, I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, but I guess that may be a thing that entrepreneurs feel sometimes too. I wanted to do something on my own. This is me, a long time ago. This is a small child, and I'm teaching a small child to design games. And that, if you can see, I'm happy there. I don't look happy, but I am happy there. And that was a moment where I was like, this feels meaningful. And I actually kept, this is the saddest thing, I don't even know why I'm telling you. I used to keep a list on my wall of people that I actually met and made an impact on, because it was a very, very short list. Because we did everything at a very high level. We helped all teachers, we helped all students, we helped all states, we helped all countries. I met with the Chinese government to give them advice. I met with the Russian government. I met with Oman because they were building their first ever museum. They wanted to talk to me about it. I talked to all of these people, but vanishingly few actual people who cared about what I was saying. This kid was one of them. He's grown now. So So it made me think a lot. It made me think back to like, what did I really want to do? What did I not want to do and keep falling into? And everything changed at breakfast. But before we get to breakfast, I know y'all, but before we get to breakfast, like I said, I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know I was going to become an entrepreneur. So let's review the 4 things that I said. I'm sorry, teacher stuff. Let's review. Skills. I got those. The Smithsonian was the moment when I realized, hey, you know what? I actually developed some skills. All of that hanging around in schools and stuff, and I came out of it, and then the work experience, because I didn't believe the hype at first. I was like 19 years old, and I'm like, I don't need workplace experience. And then at like 29, I'm like, well, I guess I did. I had skills of like technical project management, developing things, seeing a project from start to end, all that sort of stuff. Because if you know projects, especially college projects, most of them are about 50% done, and that's where they end, right? So seeing things through all the way is tricky. But I didn't have the people, I didn't have the problems, I didn't have the time. So back to breakfast. I was sitting at a VIP breakfast, because it just randomly end up in places sometimes, and I was sitting next to a person in a suit, and I didn't really know him, he was an acquaintance. And I found out he worked at the US Department of Education, and he said, what do you do? And I said, I worked at the Smithsonian. And he said, how's it going? And he's like, well, I don't like it. I actually would like to change jobs, which was kind of a weird thing to say at breakfast to somebody. I mean, it was like 8 in the morning in New York City. And there were like 40 other people there too. But he listened to me at least, and he said, what don't you like about it? And I'm like, I don't like that I'm only affecting this, right? Like, it's fine that we're doing all this, but I don't like that I'm making tech stuff. I don't like that I'm following all these things. I want to do something bigger. Well, he didn't call me back for about 6 months, but after that, I got entangled with these folks. Show me I'm not too old. Who knows who these people are? Okay, shout out. At least one of them y'all know, right? Obama, all right, all right, all right, all right. I mean, to my kids, they're like historical. Anybody know the other guy? Yeah, yeah. Oh, anybody know the name? No, all right. Secretary of Education, John King. And so I went out for an interview, I talked to them, they're like, hey, do you want to do this stuff with us? There's like all this cool stuff, and we met for like a full day interview with all these people. It was like this roundhouse thing. People were going out to the dentist, so they weren't there. It was like all kinds of crazy stuff. We got to the end of the day, and I'm like, and they're like, do you want to work here? And I'm like, well, what would I do? And they're like, well, I don't know, but you seem like you have an interesting background. So I'm like, fine, I will come here as long as you do not have me making websites. And so I did. They put me in charge of games and education policy. They put me in charge of early learning education. They put me in charge of broadband research and development. And they almost put me in charge of a web project. It was a web project, but you know, it was what it was. But this is where I found a lot of joy. This is first Ed Games Expo. This is where we got all the people out from different government and agencies, Congress, and all that sort of stuff. And we showed them games, and we said, people can learn through games. Radical idea for them, still is to some extent. And there was a lot of joy there. And this is me, a long time ago still. And these are the people. Like, these are people that I found that also did not want the regular 9-to-5 job. These are the people who didn't want to be boxed in. These are the people who wanted to do things that made an impact. And feeling that being in DC, being with those people was exhilarating, you know, because there were other people who were making changes. You didn't come to somebody and find that they were doing the same thing 10 years later that they were doing the year before. They were moving every year. They were changing every year. They were doing stuff, and it was a lot. It was a lot. We were making impact on people in real ways. We were changing the nation. Our Office of Educational Technology, which reported directly to the secretary and worked with the president, was defining how technology worked in schools across the nation, right? And it was a lot. It was great. I was happy. And then the 2016 election happened. And this was I'm not gonna lie, I'm still kind of angry about it. This was my city. This was my adopted city. This is where I lived. Anybody know what this is? Is this all, yeah. Anybody who's not over 30? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Women's March 2017, Washington, D.C. You can tell from the pink hats and the things. This was the last time that I saw the Secretary of Education. So we worked together. You know, we collaborated on things. He left. I saw him when I was marching there. He was there too. And everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. No, everything changed when I was there, right? Like, my office of these people who were like, you know, you could give them a project and they would run with it. They would build something. They would impact people. There were 14 of us, and within 3 months, there were 4 of us. Everybody's gone. They were leaving. They were going different ways. The things that I did before got multiplied 10 times. The questions that we had working under the new secretary were just, I was in charge of controlled correspondence. Do I have time for this story? A little bit. I was in charge of controlled correspondence. That means that if you sent a letter to the president and had something to do with educational technology, I had to write the response to it, which led to all kinds of wild scenarios, right? People mail the weirdest things. I got a big tube once that was a poster this big about why pi is wrong. It's actually 3.15, which wasn't the scariest thing about the poster. The scariest thing was a whole bunch of white powder came out when I opened it. But we had questions like, does Donald Trump care about educational or Wi-Fi access in rural Michigan? Because in rural Michigan, we're all for the Republicans, and we love Secretary DeVos and we love Donald Trump, but we need internet. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know. I lasted about a year in that environment. And you know, between Richard Spencer doing goose steps across the mall and nooses that were found at museums and everything else, I decided it's time for me to go home. So I came back here. And this was my job career at the time. My plan was to come back here and just retire. Like, I was like, you know what? All of my life, I've been fighting against this thing of like, get the salary, paycheck, and go home. All of my life, I've been making it hard on myself. All of my life, I've had some reason to go out and do stuff. Maybe some of your art students get that too. You're just like, why am I making it so hard? Why can't I just take a normal job? So that was my plan. So let's review. Skills, I got that. People, I got that in DC. I met the people that I need to do. All these people that I was meeting would end up becoming future partners. The people that I respected would lead to more conversations, lead to more networks, lead to expanding what I was seeing, what I was doing, and what I understood myself as inside of this bubble. Problems, I didn't have the problems yet, and I didn't have time yet. But this was me. So I was like thinking back, what brought me joy? Which is a question I asked myself a lot. And I was remembering teaching students. So I went to this school, Hathaway Brown in Cleveland. It's an all-girls school. And I went there to teach computer science, and I went to run a game lab where I could just hang out and play games and like teach people Unity and stuff. And it was like a cool job, right? It's like, I'll be happy there. And people who had been there were there for like 40 years. So I'm like, you know what? I can live here, and I can retire here, and I can not stress myself out so much trying to do wacky things. And then we got into USA Today. So we accidentally made history because we, yeah, I know, some people clap. So we got into USA Today, the Associated Press, the New York Times print Sunday edition and all that, because I started an esports team there. I started an esports team there because students wanted to play sports. They wanted to play games competitively, right? It just so happens that it was the first all-girls school to do that. And so the next thing that we knew, we were caught up in this media circus, and I mean, for me, it was like, okay, for my students, though, it was wonderful, right? Like, I got to put one of them on national TV to talk on ABC News about esports and all that sort of stuff. And it was me at that time realizing that there was a real problem here because they were gamers. Like, I don't know, any of you all gamers? Okay, all right. I mean, it's a presentation about games, so I kind of expected a stronger response, to be honest, but y'all, what do you play? Did you say, yeah? Okay. Coming out with the hard ones, yeah. Destiny, okay, yeah. League, Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've worked with Riot a lot. And Dark Souls, you know there's always that one Dark Souls person who's like, by the way, have you heard about Dark Souls before? It's cool. I'm going to get to it later. We made a Dark Souls game. I talked to Riot a lot, especially about League and stuff like that, because my students had no interest in League. And all that people told me was like, League is esports. Esports is League. You do this, right? And I'm like, why don't you all play it? And they're like, because our brothers play it, right? And I talked to Riot about it, and they were like, and this is off the record outside of the live stream, and Riot was like, you know how many women we have who play League? About 5 to 10% of our player base. The rest are men. And it clicked for me that like these students wanted to compete, they wanted to play games, they wanted to do things, they wanted to engage in what they saw as art, really. But they couldn't because the dominant paradigms that were pushed on them are ones that are backed by marketing machines that are pushing it to not them demographically, right? So they came to me with games that weren't that, and they said, we can't get any validation. So I had to make a league for it. We had to make our own esports league. We had to make up our own games for it and stuff like that, because they would all be like, oh, no, I hate esports. And then you put Just Dance on, and there would be blood on the floor. Like, I mean, these kids were, you know, they were deathly serious, right? Like, you didn't interrupt a Mario Kart match, right? So this is our team. That's me, not as long ago. And they were happy. I was happy. I went into it just trying to make a space for them, and I was trying to make one of them. I was like, maybe I'll get one story out of them, but every single person up here had something that was really meaningful for them. This is an AP study that we helped with later on. Nearly 90% of esports scholarships go to men. That was a problem, right? And that's something that makes a lot of sense when you know that if you're talking about dominant esports titles, 90% of the players are men. That makes sense, right? It was a problem that we wanted to try and fix. So I started a company. I don't know why, but I did, and it made it easier to get money. And I called it Liminal Esports because I had to make it queer because everything I do is queer. And but nobody else noticed that we're trans colors. And so we made this tool. It's called the Esports Rapid Cycle Evaluation Tool. I'm sure that sounded really exciting to you when I said it. And one of the roadblocks I noticed with folks is that, with teachers in particular, they can't get game programs justified because they don't have the data to back up that it has an impact. It looks like kids having fun, and that's not educational. So we made this tool which allows teachers to create rapidly data that proves that their kids are learning or being impacted or their school spirit's going up or whatever it is that they care about through this tool. And it kind of worked. But it wasn't, oh yeah, okay. I was like, where am I in my slides? It kind of worked, but we were calling schools. We were like, hey, do you want to judge your extracurricular? Do you want to assess your extracurriculars a little better and all that sort of stuff? This is me at the World Bank talking about it in New York City, and it was kind of a good day. And this day happened to fall in February of 2020, so which was just a normal month in New York City. So let's review. I had the skills, found some people, and I found some problems. Like being on the ground, talking to students, actually found some problems. I didn't have the time yet. So I made a game called Time Tales to deal with the time. So what happened was that when we went out to try to sell the thing that I knew was needed from a policy perspective, that I knew students needed, the market wasn't there for it. And the market wasn't there for it because it was March 2020. So we, in February 2020, we're calling schools and we're like, we've got an assessment tool that will let you measure the impact of your extracurriculars. And they said, okay, send it over. In March 2020, we called them up and they're like, I don't know if school's ever going to open again, right? It wasn't a time to be selling assessment tools for extracurriculars, for sure. So we looked around at the team that we had and the staff that we had, and we talked about it, and we're like, do we want to make it something that is another like worksheet that'll help people do this, that, and the other, or do we want to make a time-traveling 1980s game about cats? And for some reason, they chose the cat one. So we made this. Now, Time Tales started when I saw, from teaching girls Unity, girls and gender nonconforming youth, Unity. Y'all know what Unity is? Yeah, okay, all right, cool. At least the wings do. The middle is so-so. All right. So Unity game development software looks scary when you open it up. It's got like a million bajillion boxes going on. And so what I used to do was take Post-it notes and post over the parts of it that they didn't need. And then they're like, oh, it's just one box and one little thing. And I'm like, yeah, I know. The rest of them are just there to scare you. And so Timetails, we actually stripped out all of that and only showed parts of the Unity interface in a friendly, feline way. The reason why they're cats, everybody always asks me, why are they cats? And I'm like, because I asked a room full of high school students what animal, and they all said cats. I don't know. It's called user feedback. So would you rather learn Unity from like a worksheet or a Udemy course, or from George Washington fighting ice crocodiles as he crossed the Atlantic with 80s music references inside? Jury's out, but some people at least prefer this. So we put this up on, oh, this is another one. This was a puzzle that they would have to solve about Langston Hughes' poem, where they're using transforms like scale, rotation, and scaling to get poems put together and all that sort of stuff. This is me, not as long ago, 2020. This is at the Akron Art Museum. I know. And we're promoting Timetails for the first time there. And we put it up on Kickstarter, and we got like $10,000. And it was okay. We found that people don't really want to buy games that tell you they're going to teach you stuff. I should have known that already. But so we made another game. We tried again. This doesn't look like Timetails. This is Tea Time Adventures. Tea Time Adventures, and this is really the beginning of Snowbright, because we changed our name from Liminal Esports to Snowbright. Tea Time Adventures is a tabletop role-playing game, think D&D, but it's non-violent. In it, you have recipes, you bake, you take care of gardens, you travel around to different towns, and you just have a good time with each other. And this resonated with people. Every adventure in it has a recipe, and every adventure has a tea pairing that goes along with it. We made custom blends of tea that went along with it that we sold. They were designed by our partner who has synesthesia, so she tastes words. So she read the adventures and then made tea blends based on what they taste like. And it was a hit. It was a hit, whereas Timetails was like barely scraping up to 10,000. When we put this up on Kickstarter, we got 60,000 for it, and we've been able to sell it a lot since then. This doesn't look educational. That's me trying to learn. So when we did Timetails, it looked educational. People were like, that's a great product. It's going to solve a lot of problems. I'm not giving you 20 bucks for it. When we gave them this one and we're like, look, it's fun. And they're like, great, I'll give you 50 bucks for that one. But secretly, I do a lot of things secretly these days. Secretly, this teaches conflict resolution. My thought process was that one of the big problems that we're going through as a country is that we don't have a way to talk to each other, and that lots of things break down when we do. And role-playing games don't help with that, because the solution when I bring up D&D or Pathfinder or whatever to my kids is stab somebody in the stomach. That doesn't translate well to other scenarios. So I was like, what if I made the most blindingly good-natured, wholesome thing in the world? Is there somebody who's going to bring this to their table and then stab someone in the stomach in this game? Probably. But it's not going to be in my book, at least. And that's what we found out. So in the game, there's 4 adventures. They actually teach socio-emotional learning, conflict resolution. It was something that we weren't really allowed to talk about at the Department of Education because it was soft stuff. It wasn't reading, it wasn't math, but it's just as important to teach you how to talk to people and understand their problems, especially when their problems aren't solvable. So many of our problems aren't solvable. You still need to interact with people and work with them. And so what better way to model this than in a safe environment with your friends at a table where there's real problems, but you can actually just talk about them. So that was the pitch for it. Actually, that was specifically not the pitch for it, because if we told people this was a game about conflict resolution, guess how many people would have bought it, right? So we told them it was about tea. It is about tea. It is about tea. Please don't. I'm looking in case my comms manager is watching this right now. So this was the book that we made. We went all in. You can see the GM screen and the map and stuff. We had illustrations all throughout. This is one of my worst ideas ever. We sold these teapots. People kept asking us to sell teapots. I was like, sure, why not? And then I found myself shipping ceramics to London when I'm like, wasn't the whole thing that they sent us tea and now we're sending them tea and things got broken, things were bad. one of the packages wrote Skokie, Illinois, England. And it took 6 months to get back to me until they realized that there was no Illinois in England. Many pieces of teapots. And these dice have actual tea leaves inside of them. So like I said, we're all in on it. So when we go to cons and stuff, these things work well. This is the interior of it. These are one of our recipes. We have artists, we have a creative team, right? Now I have one of my degrees is in computer graphics and animation, I didn't mention that, but we have artists who work on our stuff, and our goal is just to like have them make art, because that's what they enjoy doing, and then I try to get them other places. This was so successful that we launched a sequel to it called Tea-Pets, The Wonderful World of Tea-Pets, and this just wrapped up on BackerKit yesterday, so I'm still a little flustered, but that one got 80,000. So we keep, and people who bought the first one bought this one, so I guess we're doing something right. And this time we're doing a plush animal and stickers and more tea and all the other stuff. This was our first, this is embarrassing to look at. This was our first convention appearance at Origins in Columbus, Origins Game Fair in Columbus last year. This was just last year. And you can tell by looking at it, we had no idea what we were doing. We have paper cloths, and we set out a stack of books and stuff like that, and people bought our stuff. And for us, we've been around for so long, to see people just come up and just like buy things, we were like, wow, okay, we've been making cool stuff for a long time, but this stuff you actually want. Told us that something was different about our company and where we had gone. One thing that we noticed was that one person would walk by, another person would walk by, a third person would stop and buy tea time. And with that person, now I hate to stereotype, but we watched and like looked at it when we were doing this. Most of the people who bought tea time were either female identifying or trans identifying, because it's a radically inclusive, audaciously hospitable world and all this sort of stuff. And often their boyfriends would stand there just bored. So we made this game, Ink. And when we put up banners for Ink like this, the other people stopped by too. And so we weren't just looking at one person buying a thing, we're looking at somebody else buying a thing too. Ink is the bitter, darker coffee companion to Tea Time Adventures. So we went pretty all in on this one too. You can see the coffee, and we had custom roasts of coffee that were gone along with it and stuff. The pitch of it is that if your character dies in your main RPG campaign, you can bring them back to life and play their spirit in this game. And you only level up when there's a total party kill. So the more you die, the stronger that you get. It's a cool mechanic. It's one that gets people who are especially like, yeah, let's kill all this stuff, which is not the Tea Time Adventures people. And they're excited about it. Secretly, it's about coping with grief. And again, if I had come up to people and was like, hey, would you like to buy a game about managing your emotions about grief? Most people would tell me no. Maybe one person would be like, oh, that's interesting, I'm doing research on it too. But when we phrase it as like you're slaying dragons and you're dying again and again, and you're trying to seek the reason why you're stuck in the afterlife, then it sounds like an adventure and people are willing to do it. We had a whole box that went along with this one too. So what I'm trying to convey to you, if it's not clear, is the process that it takes to get from ideas to a place where things actually get sold. This was our booth at PAX East. So this is about 7 months after the other one. It's the first time that the PAX East in Boston, first time that we sold Ink. I was really nervous. I was like, I don't know what the reaction is gonna be. We sold exactly the same number of Tea Time books as Ink books. And to me, that told me that there was success. We were seeing that more people were coming by. We wanted to expand from there, so we went, we asked ourselves, what other problems are our customers facing at this point? Because they love our art. I write the stuff, I write bad poetry in them, I write songs in them, we write adventures where everybody's happy at the end or dead at the end, one of the two. And our artists make all of this beautiful stuff. But again, they're not gonna buy it if the pitch is wrong. So what are the other problems that our customers are going through? And so from that conversation, we ended up with Cozy Companion Magazine, which is a cozy games and fiction magazine. And in it, I'm still secretly trying to teach people. We have interviews with scientists, we have science activities and all this sort of stuff. We actually partially funded by the National Science Foundation to include this as a way to ingrain science education into role-playing games, board games, card games, and all that sort of stuff. But you can see that our fans love it too. These are fan creations. Somebody actually knit one of the creatures from our game, made stickers of it and stuff. We have new adventures for Inc. We have new adventures for Tea Time Adventures. We have board game reviews written by cats. We have interviews with retailers and all this sort of stuff. Do you know what the problem was that we were trying to solve here? Does anybody, I didn't lead up to that well enough. Does anybody in here actually play tabletop role-playing games? Okay, okay, cool. Because you're not a social pariah anymore, not like 20 years ago. What is the problem? What is the #1 problem with tabletop role-playing games? You know what it is. Huh? China? I don't know how China factors in. Yeah? Getting people together. Nobody is ever there. And when they are there, I gotta go do the thing, or I'm not feeling so great, or oh yeah. So the things don't happen. So we made this to give them the feeling that they could continue to play, they could continue to participate and feel that. Because the real problem that we were noticing with our customers, they'd come up and they'd buy the book and they're like, and I will never play this with anyone because I'm very lonely. That was the problem, right? They want to play these like queer, wholesome games. They want to enjoy the art. They want to enjoy the stories. But others in their circle don't. And that's something as a trans person, like I feel a lot, you know? Everybody wants to do the sword and sandal and the wizards and dragons and stuff. Cool. But sometimes you just want to garden. I don't know. So we made this to solve that customer problem, because now every 2 months, because bi-monthly, so it's 6 a year, every 2 months they get something in the mail that says, hey, don't worry, you're still a part of the community, and that community exists, right? There's no other cozy games and fiction magazine, and there certainly isn't another queer one. So we listen to our folks, and this is the way that our art connects with them. We've done four issues so far, and you might notice the one in the flowers, with the flowers, has cats. It's the return of Time Tales. So starting in February, we're doing a Time Tales RPG, and this time we're gonna see. We're gonna see if it actually sells, because we have a different pitch. It's not, and that's really part of my point here. It's not that we had bad art, and it's not that we had bad stories, and it's not that we didn't have good, compelling characters. It's that we didn't have the right business pitch. And now we're gonna see if that really holds up in February when we launch it on Kickstarter, so we'll see. So again, this was us last year. This is our booth this year at Origins, and this is me learning. I don't know what else to call it. We were terrible last year. This year, it looked great. We got so many compliments on stuff. And that's something to take away too, is like, it's not going to go well when you start. And that's one of the reasons why you need time. These are the different experiences. Something else we learned from our customers. They want to be able to see themselves at the table. So we set these up as if they were actually playing, which was a big thing for them. It's more of the experience and less of the specific thing. So skills, people, problems, time. We've done the first 3 things. We're working on the time part. It takes time to start a fan base. It takes time to start culture. It takes time to refine and learn and all that other stuff. And it's very easy to quit at the start because you feel so dejected because it doesn't work immediately like somebody else's does when it goes viral or something like that. If you're gonna do it the actual way, like build it up from the ground, you gotta take time and take it one step at a time. We're in year 5 right now. I didn't say that at the start. This is year 5 for us. So again, if you think that you're going to become like famous and do it and have a successful business next year, maybe you will. I don't know, but didn't work for me. We had to actually take it and do step by step and build it up piece by piece, and play the long game. And I think that's probably a smart thing. So I didn't talk enough about my team, but here's pictures of all of them because they're absolutely amazing. Also, fan art coloring competition we had in Seattle last month. Got awards and stuff. I had to include this one because our team was founded on one unifying principle, and that is that we all adore the TV show Twin Peaks, which is an old reference for folks. So we actually went out. That was like a big moment for us. We actually went out to where they shot Twin Peaks in like rural Washington to go see it. So that was like a we made it moment for us. Just like when we got to go out to the waterfall and have pie. So that's the story. It was a lot of luck. I don't know what to tell you. It was a lot of luck. It was a lot of hard work. It's infinite amount of stress to be an entrepreneur, low return. but I'm not stuck in a job. So I got that going for me. When I make a website now, I tell myself I have to make it, and then I argue with myself, so that's better than arguing with somebody else too. This is our stuff. If you want to talk to me, it's collins@snowbrightstudio.com. Always happy to chat with folks too. I hope some of this was helpful, and I stayed right on time. Thank you very much.